Hello there and welcome to Cansanity. Today we're going to talk about how to fill your pots with soil for planting your vegetables and your flowers. So I've lined up some pots here just to talk about the different size pots that I use around my garden. At this end here I have a 9-inch pot, which is the smallest pot that I have in my garden. It's glazed with, it's got a glaze on it, and it has a built-in tray. That's the smallest pot that I would use in my garden. In fact, I don't really have very many of those that size around my yard because of its size. I can't get a lot of plants in it, and it also, because it's small, it's going to need to be watered more frequently. So I have a lot of things to do around the yard here, so I really want to pick pots that have the least amount of maintenance. So the next size up I have here is a 10-inch, and then a 12-inch, and then I have a 14-inch pot. If you're planning to buy just one or two pots, I would suggest that you go with a 12-inch pot. It's very versatile then. You can fill it with flowers one year, you can put a tomato plant in it the next. And like I said, because it's a larger size, it's not going to need as much care in terms of water. So this clay pot here is just a terracotta pot with a separate tray. All pots are going to need some kind of tray on the bottom to capture the water, so that you'll water it, and then once the tray captures the water, for the next couple days, the soil will take up the water from the tray. So if you get into this size, which is 14 inches, then you can just get plastic trays. They're really inexpensive, and honestly, once you put all the beautiful flowers and plants in it, no one's going to notice the bottom tray. So moving along, this is another type of planter that I use in my yard. This is a plastic resin planter that has a built-in reservoir. It's manufactured by a company called Maine, M-A-Y-N-E. I have several of these in different sizes around my yard. In fact, on my deck I have 4 that are 36 inches, which would be this length, and 20 inches in depth. And so they're great for deck planters, because if you have a large deck, to put something like that on your deck, they're great because you can put larger plants in there. And so I've grown peppers, tomatoes, large herbs like tarragon, lemon verbena, and also strawberries. So they're great planters because of the being made out of resin. You can leave them outside all winter long, and they won't crack. And once you fill a large planter with soil, like the size that I have on my deck, or even this size, you're not going to want to move it around because it's quite heavy. So anyways, it's a good material to buy, a good type of planter to buy, because you can leave it out all year round. So we're going to talk now about how you fill your planter. I'm going to start with getting some soil out of my garden as the first layer. And the reason why you want to grab some soil out of your garden, or some existing soil, is that it's live soil. You'll have a good amount of microbes and worms, and so you want to, if you can, add that to the bottom layer of a planter like this. So I'm just going to go over to my garden. I've already added a couple of shovels to the planter, and I'm just going to grab one more because I want to get to at least 1/3 of the volume of this container with live soil. So I'm just going to go grab another shovel. As you can see, the soil is nice and dark, rich with all kinds of nutrients. Great for adding to a planter. Great for adding to a planter for vegetables or for flowers. So next I'm going to add a layer of either vegetable peels or compost. I did go over earlier and grabbed some compost from my drum that I have at the side of the house. And as you can see, if you take a look at this, it's a nice dark matter now that it's composted. So I could add this, or if you don't have a compost drum or a container that does the compost for you, you can always just add some vegetable peels or eggshells right to the planter. And I'm just going to go and grab a little bit from my garden just to show you that we actually, at this time of the year, we dig holes in our vegetable garden, and then we just add the peels and the eggshells right to the garden. So I'm just going to go grab a shovel of that. So you see I have some rather large pieces in here. If you have a big container, you could put that in there. So I'm just going to put that at the bottom, or sorry, the middle. And I'm going to just break up that large peel that I had a little bit, so it'll help facilitate the breaking down of the material. So you're now going to want to turn this over. And I've already started with this earlier, so I don't have to do too much turning, but you want to mix it up. You want to mix the live soil with your compost and give it a good stir. So I'm going to add some of this bucket as well, because I want to add, for the compost layer, I want to add 1/4 of the volume of the container, so I'm not quite there yet, so I'm going to add a little bit of that. Stir that around, mix that up. That's good. So now that I have 2/3 of my, or a little bit more than 2/3 of my container filled, a little less, then I'm going to add the next layer, which is your potting soil. And I buy whatever's on sale at the end of the season in the fall, and I store it in my garage so that I have it ready to get my pots prepared as soon as possible. In the spring, I happen to buy Miracle Grow. ProMix is another good potting soil, and then there are some organic varieties out there as well. So you're going to pour that on top, and you're going to fill it so that it's just to about 2 inches above, 2 inches below the top. And the reason for that is you want to have room to move the soil aside and put your plants in. So if you buy a big tomato plant at a nursery, it will have some soil attached, and so you're going to have some room to move that soil aside to plant all your plants. This is not quite at 2 inches. It's pretty good. I might put a little bit more. Once you water this will compact down a little bit. And before you go to plant your plants, you are going to water this thoroughly so that you get so that you'll see exactly how low the soil is. So next we're going to talk about what you're going to do if you don't have a vegetable garden for getting some live soil. I don't use pesticides or herbicides on my lawn, so I would have no problem just digging a hole on some part of my lawn and just grabbing some clay. Clay is rich in nutrients, so great to add to the bottom of a pot. If you don't have that, then you could just put some black earth or triple mix, and so you would put that down at the bottom of your main container, and fill it to a third. Then you're going to add some compost. You can buy compost by the bag at the nurseries or Canadian Tire. I usually buy sheep manure if I'm going to buy it by the bag. So you'll put about a quarter of the volume of that in the container, mix it up, and then top it with your potting soil. So that's how you would do it if you didn't have a vegetable garden or access to some live soil. So now for doing a pot like this, any of these pots, you're going to want to put something in the bottom to improve the drainage. And so you want to grab a couple rocks, like grab 4 or 5 rocks like that, different shapes. Don't pick them all so that they're in the round shape, because if you put those down at the bottom of your pot, you're likely to plug the drain hole, and you don't want to do that. The purpose of putting the rocks in is to improve the drainage. So you'll put the rocks down, and then you would do the same where you would put a third of that volume, be either your triple mix or your garden soil, then your compost or your vegetable matter, and then the last layer would be your potting soil. So I think that's everything I had to tell you about how to prepare your pots for planting. Have a nice day.